Supplemental material. The Ages of Democracy, a guide.
Like Snowflakes or Sting albums, no two democracies are exactly alike, but they all tend to follow the same basic pattern. This guide will help steer you through the turning points of your democracy's life.
Infancy.
Congratulations! You've ended your religious, economic, ethnic repression and thrown off the yoke of your despot, king, Ayatollah, through a bloody, bloodless war, coup, voluntary exile. Now it's time to choose your first leader. He may have commanded your war effort, but could also be a prominent exile returning home from his villa on the Côte d'Azur. First step, draft a new constitution. Use pencil. Next, hold your first election. Is it fraudulent? Don't worry. Everybody's proud of you just for trying. Here's a tip. Naming a new national capital? Why not call it, insert your country, city?
Childhood.
Your democracy is up and running. You're ready to organize political parties. One, ideally, two, if necessary. During these formative years, they'll prove invaluable in furnishing your citizens with opinions. Plenty of exciting discoveries await, but remember, youthful exuberance can sometimes lead to violent acting out. Control yourself. Hire a police force, preferably led by some of the people you overthrew. Other milestones to look for? First war, writing national anthem about that war, and collecting taxes all by yourself, like a big country. Here's a tip. It's also a good time to free any Nobel Peace Prize winners you may have incarcerated.
Adolescence.
A democracy's most turbulent time. It usually starts with an assassination, waves of revenge killings, Les Miserables, and ends with a civil war, or population adjustment. In between, you'll undergo a rapid growth spurt, possibly involving the annexation of Texas. Your relationship with your founders will change. You'll find yourself questioning whether they had it all wrong when it came to, for instance, slavery. Physically, your private sector will mature, your mineral deposits will start surfacing, and you will experience the first stirrings of interest in women, specifically in letting them vote. Here's a tip. You may also notice dissidents where you formerly had none. Don't worry, this is normal, and they can always be arrested.
Adulthood.
The prime of your life. By now you know who you are and which UN committee you chair. Your natural resources are at the peak of their exportability. It's time to think about building a future, settling down with the right alliances, maybe even raising little colonies of your own. But with success comes new responsibility. Other nations are now counting on you for aid and peacekeeping troops. You may find yourself compromising your youthful ideals, supporting regimes you know are violating human rights. Don't beat yourself up about it. You have to trade with someone. Here's a tip. With the free press firmly in place, you may see the first appearance of political satire. Ignore it. It can do no harm.
Middle age.
One day your democracy will look in the mirror and behold a scary sight. Voter turnout is thinning. Your welfare system is bloated. You're completely dominated by corporate interests, and you haven't had a proper election in years. When this happens, a nation may go through a midlife crisis, seeking solace in superficial toys like satellite-based lasers to shoot down missiles or action stars turned politicians. Don't be surprised if old allies decide to leave you and start referring to you as a once great nation. Ultimately, you will have to decide whether to quietly make peace with your declining power or to go out in a blaze of glory, taking Mideast peace or world fish stocks or the ozone layer with you. Here's a tip. Many middle-aged democracies find themselves turning to religion for strength, so don't be embarrassed to erode church-state separation provisos.
Old age.
Your legislative sessions now deal almost exclusively with health care and Social Security. The dependent nations you've created no longer want anything to do with you. But worst of all, your mind is going. The best and brightest of your nation shun public service, and the resulting brain drain racks your bureaucracies, rendering you unable to perform even the most basic tasks, like balancing a budget or conducting a legitimate election. Your body politic is clogged with incumbents, and worst of all, your vice president once played someone named the Geech on a UPN sitcom. By the end, you can't even recognize your own ideals. Your few remaining friends may be tempted to end your misery and bomb you out of love. But at least they can take some small comfort in the saying, old democracies never die. They just get overthrown by military juntas or peasant insurrectionists or rural militias.
Discussion questions. 1. If you lived in a monarchy, would you rather be the king or a slave? Why or why not? 2. What is the central ideological difference between democracy and cannibalism? 3. You're a 5th century Greek city-state growing increasingly concerned over repeated Persian incursions into the central Peloponnesian Peninsula. How many hoplites can you dispatch to Thermopylae without jeopardizing the triremes commanded by Themistocles for the naval engagement at Artemisium? Show your work. 4. Does the expression, when in Rome, do what the Romans do, apply to all cities or just Rome? 5. The notion that each individual has worth in society found political expression in the invention of democracy. What's bullshit about this? 6. Is direct democracy practical today? In a nation as big as ours, is it really possible to simultaneously gather the opinions of 300 million people? Log on to www.americathebook.com and vote in our poll. Classroom activities. 1. Have your students draw a topographical map of ancient Greece. For every elevation they get wrong, punch one in the arm. 2. Give your students a taste of Athenian life before democracy by implementing a draconian measure, like forcing them to wear togas to class every day for a month. Then celebrate democracy by being named the principal defendant in a class action lawsuit against the school. 3. Have the class perform a real-time, period-accurate reenactment of the Protestant Reformation. That should buy you plenty of time to step outside for a smoke.